James here from the Gator Nation Football Podcast. Welcome to another film breakdown. We'll be taking a look at Florida's offense versus Tennessee. This game didn't exactly go as most people thought it would, including myself. Florida struggled more than I thought they would have. There is a lot to look at in this film breakdown. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time and kind of more rapid fire what's happening versus breaking down intricately what coverages Tennessee was in and things like that. Primarily to illustrate what Florida struggled with in this game, what Tennessee did to cause that, and whether or not these things are correctable or something that other teams are going to be able to exploit. As always, if you like the content, like this video, sub to this channel, check us out on social media, drop us a dono by becoming a patron on Patreon, and if you do so, let me know that you came from the film breakdown, and I will give you a shout out on our next film breakdown. Check out the pod each and every Monday where we bring you in-depth analysis on the Florida Gators. And let's look at the very first play of this game. And this will illustrate one of the problems Florida had. Florida ran against the numbers quite a bit against Tennessee, and Tennessee was actually playing quite aggressively against the run. This was a novel game plan from Pruitt in Tennessee. One could potentially argue, if you want to take a speculative theory, Pruitt, former Alabama coach, buddies with Nick Saban, put out a very different game plan. There were some core elements of things we've seen teams, especially teams that have been doing or what they've been doing in the past couple of weeks, done here by Tennessee. But there were also some elements of things that were rather surprising that sort of makes me wonder if there was a little level of testing Florida with things that Florida hasn't necessarily seen before. Maybe I'll give my buddy Nick Saban a little nod. Again, that's a deep dive, total speculation. No way for me to found that. But some of the things Tennessee did were just rather interesting. Some of the things Florida did were perhaps not so interesting, and this is one of them. So right out of the gate here on 1st down and 10, let's take a look at the numbers in the box on this play. You're going to see Tennessee has 7. Florida has 2, 4, 6. So we are down. We're down a man. Now, if you've been watching these film breakdowns for a while, you know that you typically do not want to run against the numbers. If you're Florida, where your run game tends to struggle even numbers, you definitely don't want to do this. We should not be surprised the result of this play is not going to be a good one. Not going to be a good one. Again, now effectively it becomes hat-on-hat football here, if you will, because you can see the extra run defender is taking a look at Trask while also kind of shading Pitts. But for all practical purposes, there are 7 in the box. They are ready for the run. Tennessee gets an easy stop here. What is perhaps most surprising about Tennessee's game plan was they seemed to have a really good handle on when Florida wanted to run versus when they wanted to pass. They were very accurate at play calling Florida's plays as to whether it was run and pass, and Tennessee had an excellent gauge on the snap count. You're going to see several plays from this film study where they were getting off the ball very, very quickly, and that definitely affected some of the things Florida wanted to do. The very next play, it's 2nd and 8. Florida just ran. If you're watching at home, you're thinking, okay, certainly we're going to pass. But then Tennessee gives you this. They give you a 5-man box, Florida with a 5-man front. A good opportunity potentially here to run here. You can see they're in too high. So this is a good running situation if you're Florida. In fact, running the ball here is absolutely defensible. The problem that we're going to have on this play is we're going to try to run an off-tackle play on the right side. We want to come through this gap, except Delance is basically going to get pushed right into the gap here, and there is no hole. So take a look here. This is what we're looking for. We get a kick out here. We're going to either block this linebacker, but since we read that he is really underneath the play and can't get there, we're going to go to the next level and go for the home run. So we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And in fact, if this were to happen, if this happens, if Delance is able to hold up here at the line of scrimmage and hold this block, this could be a home run. Now, you rarely see Florida, rarely in the past many years do you see Florida hit home runs like this. You'll see teams like Alabama do it and Clemson do it frequently, almost week in and week out. You almost never see Florida do it. And this has to do with having to have enough guys on the offensive line that can block well and create a gap big enough for your running back to get through and then also get to the next level. Now, again, we're to the next level here, and if there is this gap in the off tackle where the play is supposed to go, this very well could be, and in fact probably is, a touchdown. But because of that, this is going to be a gain of just a couple of yards. And again, all of this happens because Delance at the point of attack here, he needs to hold this up, is going to get pushed back. Take a look at him. He's going to get driven back, driven back, driven back, driven back, driven back, and now there just is nothing there. Now, you can't see this very well from this view, but if you look at the end zone camera, I can assure you that Delance should be out here. He's pushed into here, and this is going to cause problems. It wasn't just Delance in this game, although, again, he struggles week in and week out more than any other Florida lineman. Tennessee's defensive line consistently won at the point of attack, something that we highlighted entering into the game against Tennessee that Florida needed to do, and Florida generally failed to do that, which is why they had virtually no running game, and they also struggled at times to pass the ball as well. Kentucky dialed up a lot of pressure, caused a lot of problems for Florida's offensive line. 3rd down and 7 for Florida. This is going to be what looks to be a standard lineup here from Tennessee at the snap, something Florida's seen a million times before, +1 pass defender here, +1 pass defender here. So let's call this a maximum pass defense. There's obviously a wide variety of zones Tennessee could run out of this, but for now they're showing us two high safeties, and as we've seen before, these corners can bail if they want, they can sit if they want. We've covered this stuff before. We're not going to worry too much about that in today's film broadcast. We will definitely cover that a lot when we get to Alabama and even some LSU later this week. But for now, let's worry about what is going to happen here post-snap. Predictably, Delance is going to get beat one-on-one, which is going to cause pressure on Trask from the right side, and perhaps not predictably, unlike what we saw Vanderbilt and Kentucky do, which is really attempt to erase Toney. Tennessee sometimes did and sometimes didn't. In fact, Tennessee's back-end strategy was to mix up who they were giving attention to. It was definitely partly by design. It definitely did work. Trask, in fact, I think had his worst game reading the field. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Tennessee's game plan was not predictable with who they were going to give extra attention to. On this particular play, Toney is going to wind up getting a one-on-one underneath matchup, and he's not going to have any help here like we had seen on the previous breakdown videos. Toney is going to do what he does best in these situations and get wide open with a nice move, and that's going to move the sticks for Florida. Again, Toney sometimes got attention and sometimes didn't. So this was the very beginning of this game plan. But if you're Trask right now, perhaps you're thinking, oh, wow, this is great. Toney's going to wind up getting a lot of one-on-one underneath looks. I'll just look at him. But that was not going to remain true all game long. Trask typically is rather excellent at identifying and creating the appropriate protection call. Now, it's impossible for me to know when breaking down these videos what the protection call is. And perhaps as a note, as all of you should know, anytime I'm doing a film breakdown, I'm having to make guesses based upon what is seen. It's impossible to know 100% what some of the coverages are, what some of the play calls are, but we can look at film and at least see, hey, this technique should be here. This back-end coverage is probably this. Here's what the read probably looks like. We can use the film as evidence to get a good idea, but again, 100% certainty can't always be had. However, on film, we can see things like this when the protection clearly is wrong. Right now, we can see that Trask is pointing here to our nickel, and he's suggesting he may be blitzing. We can see here our right tackle, Delance, is looking back, and we're going to get the call. So let's make a call. Perhaps Trask wants to slide the protection to the right. So we could wind up telling his offensive lineman, slide protection to the right, pick up your blitz here. I'm going to wind up sliding this way to take my throw here, or I could read, anything hot in here. But what matters is the offensive line then is going to give extra attention on this side of the field. Tennessee, however, is going to actually bring pressure from this side. So they're going to wind up faking Trask out. He's going to call the wrong protection. He is going to have Copeland completely wide open on a slant route here as well, and he's not going to wind up seeing it. Again, a lot of attention there, a lot of pointing being paid. He thinks pressure's coming from the right. He immediately turns his head to look and see. Let's look. Watch. He takes a snap and looks. He knows. Now he's not coming, so he feels safe. Protection. Take a look at the protection. Protection is now slanted this way. We're protecting the right side here. He's going to peel back around to make his read on this side of the field where he's feeling good about what his pre-snap look was like, except now Tennessee is getting home. They're in his face. Now, even at this point in time, Trask, when he's on his game, absolutely recognizes that both of these defenders are focusing on here on Pierce, and then he knows he has Copeland on a slant. Tons of field space here to throw this. We've seen him make these throws all season long. He's not going to make it here. In fact, he's going to duck out and throw a rather indecisive ball to Pierce. If he had time to throw it to Pierce, he certainly had time to throw it to Copeland. Doesn't do it. But all of this actually started with the wrong protection call. And what that really meant was Trask took the extra time to confirm his look here, saw that it wasn't right, which was just enough time for him to then make his read this way, have a guy in his face, and not have the extra quarter second he would have needed to have seen Copeland, who actually would have scored a touchdown on this play. He was so wide open in the middle of the field, you can't see it on the All-22, but he would have almost certainly walked in. I mean, sorry, you can't see it except for on the All-22, but he almost certainly would have walked into the end zone on that play. So chalk one up there for Tennessee with a good pre-snap design, adding on to the fact that Trask had not seen a lot of pressures. In fact, he had seen hardly any pressures for multiple weeks now. And Tennessee decided to dial up the pressure. And that was something that absolutely confused, conflicted, and messed with Florida's offense all day long. It's my opinion they were not ready or expecting Tennessee to bring so much pressure, primarily because Trask really historically has excelled against blitzes. He's one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. They weren't ready for this, and Tennessee took advantage really all day long, causing Florida more consternation than one of the worst pass defenses in the country should have. We showed on last week's film breakdown that teams are getting much better at having their corner drop into our own corner routes or vertical routes here. Florida loves to run a nub tight end where they don't have anyone else on the side with Pitts. So he's by himself, and frequently we will send a running back out behind him. We are trying to high-low a corner. So if we send a corner route here, we know that a safety who is inside of Pitts can't get to that route, and this corner is effectively 2-on-1. He has a low route and a high route. He must choose one. Teams have increasingly been choosing to take away, obviously, Pitts in the deep route, and that had left, of course, our running backs wide open. Tennessee was well prepared for Florida's running back, especially their wheel routes or anything out into the flat. They had a good package for this, and their corners were very active at essentially just trying to deny the very first look Trask had. So rather than stick themselves in no man's land, they were trying to convincingly take away one and then shift to the other, and you're going to watch that happen here. He's going to drop and squeeze this route on Pitts. Trask is going to read that first. There's his head. He is reading it right now. What does he see? He sees, okay, I've got a dropping corner. I need to hit my flat. This is what I want right here. I want this route. He's going to now move his head. Here it comes. There it is. He sees it. Now he has this throw. It's 3rd and 3. This should be a first down. The ball should come out. Trask, again, his timing just wasn't quite there on Saturday. Typically from his balls coming out, it's not coming out. Doesn't come out. Hesitates. Oop, I don't want to throw that now. I don't like that. Again, he should have. Ball should already be out. We're going to move the sticks. Okay, I'll try to just maybe squeeze one in here. And the reason he throws this ball away is although there is space, and in fact, Aaron Murray said that you could have hit this here, we saw that with Trask's head, he's not looking at that. So one more time, he looks there at Pitts. Now he looks at Pierce. Now he's going to look back up. By now, it's just too late. What he sees is not what, again, Aaron Murray's indicating on the broadcast, and not that Aaron Murray was wrong. If Trask had just stuck on, if he had just stuck on with his eyes, Pitts, that window would have opened, but he didn't. So he doesn't see it. So really, this is simply just a throwaway. He's uncomfortable, doesn't like it, knows he has an underneath corner, doesn't like this, doesn't make a good throw. Did he have this window here? Yes. But again, all of this occurred because he just wasn't getting clean post-snap pictures, something we typically don't see him do, and it affected him, again, really all game long. We just mentioned that teams had been dropping the corner to help with Pitts on this nub look, and here it is again. And watch how well Tennessee does this. This is excellent work by them. There goes Malik out. Oh, by the way, I should mention, this is a 2-back set. We said Florida does not run these very often. We showed the tremendous success Alabama had against Tennessee doing it. Florida actually did this quite a bit in this game. So if you watched last week's film study, you would have seen this and said, hey, I've seen this before. In fact, Bama did it. Now Florida's doing it. So showing you that on offense, we obviously do watch a lot of film and take looks that are affecting teams. Tennessee was prepared for how Florida was utilizing this set versus how Alabama did it, primarily because Tennessee didn't feel like Florida could run the ball on them at all, which significantly changes how this is run. And perhaps most curiously, Florida barely ran any play fakes in this game. In fact, we only ran 8 or so play fakes despite dropping back 45 plus times. That is rather shocking. Florida tends to play fake much more often. I think this affected the game in ways that were rather significant, especially because Tennessee's linebackers rarely ever had to worry about honoring the run. They could just drop back into their passing zones. I really don't have a good reason for why Florida chose not to do that. It's been a staple all year long. It's very effective. It's one of the most important things when running a spread offense, to keep those linebackers out of your windows. For whatever reason, Florida rarely employed it. But on this particular play, we're not going to get a play fake either, which again allows your linebackers to immediately drop into their zones. But what's going to happen here is a really nice play by the corner. He's going to drop with Pitts, and again, here's what we're looking at. Okay, I see these dropping with Pitts. Okay, great. Oh, whoop, now I see he's coming down here. He's coming down here on my running back. Okay, maybe I still have Pitts then. But take a look, he doesn't actually stop his feet. He's just reading Trask. He's still flowing backwards. In fact, Trask does have this throw. He's still flowing backwards, dropping into this window, which Trask feels and overthrows. And that's one of the best things about Trask. He's got a great feel for when his picture is not clean. A lot of quarterbacks here might just trust they have this. This is going to be a pick. Again, look at his positioning. This is an excellent, excellent play. Just a fantastic play by Tennessee's DBs, baiting him here. He knows he prefers to go to Pitts. That's going to be a pick or something close to it. Instead, it winds up being a throwaway. But another example here of Trask, again, getting confused by teams that are maybe not confused, but perhaps slowing his progression window down enough, and also just locking on to Pitts too much. Again, I think this largely came from the fact that Tennessee was not always giving Pitts extra attention. They did sometimes, and other times they didn't. So Trask really wasn't sure how much attention they were going to be giving to him, and this did pay dividends for Tennessee's pass defense despite giving up a lot of passing yards. Again, they were successful at forcing quite a few incomplete passes and really just quite a few Kyle Trask-like moments that didn't look like himself. Florida here with the numbers. Florida has 7, 2, 4, 6, 7 versus 4 and 2, so 6. We're not going to count this defender as an in-box defender because in reality he is almost certainly going to bail and take the first flat route, first go route, whatever the case may be, before he eventually comes to help out. He's really inconsequential, especially if you're going to run any play over here, and these two guys cannot do anything either. So Florida has a +1 advantage. This should be a rather significant advantage, especially against the Tennessee defense that's struggling to stop the run. Again, they're much better at stopping the run than the pass, but still not an excellent run-stopping team. Florida, of course, struggled mightily to run the ball all day long. One of the reasons why was how well Tennessee was timing Florida's snap count. Now take a look at how well we're going to get off the ball here. Look, ball is not snapped, and he's already leaning in. Now, that may not seem like much to you. That is significant. This was happening all day long. If a team is all over your snap count, things like this are going to happen. He shoots right through the A-gap. And again, this is a half step. A half step here changes this play. If this block can be engaged just a half step differently and the timing's not off, we're going to be okay. Instead, we're not. He times the snap count perfectly, blows through the A-gap, gets there before we are ready to engage the block, pushes us straight back in, and that's what winds up happening. Again, that's an impossible situation for any tight end, whether it's Pitts or Zipper or Gamble. It doesn't really matter here. The timing of this is all off because the snap count's timed perfectly. It comes right in. You're just not ready to engage your block yet. Gets pushed back, play over, play ended. Tennessee did that all day long. Again, very successful knowing Florida's snap count. Whether or not they picked something up on film or they just had a good feeling for it, I can assure you that Florida will spend a lot of time this week making sure that LSU is not able to do the same thing. It's now 2nd and 12. We mentioned Tennessee had a really good feel for when Florida was going to run and when Florida was going to pass, and this is a good example of it. Florida again with 7 here on the line versus a favorable box of 6 with, of course, a corner who's going to wind up either being in run or pass support. And now we have a receiver here, which is going to threaten this part of the field. So in reality, Florida has a nice pre-snap look here. In fact, if I'm Trask, I'm feeling pretty good about what I see, and I'd be happy to run some play action to see what the linebackers do and to see what he does. And I'd love an RPO. I'd love a run-pass option. I'd love to be able to have a choice here. This is an RPO play, and we know that because we are not blocking with our receivers, right? So there is an option here. And take a look at Tennessee. Tennessee pretty much is going to give Florida whatever they want over here. We're not going to wind up taking it. We're going to hand this ball off. Tennessee is expecting run. They're ready for run. Of course, they are reacting, but they are expecting a run here. They are coming in aggressively for it, and they are correct, despite the fact that it's 2nd and 12, and despite the fact that Florida looks like they have plus numbers at the start. Again, 2, 4, 6, verse 6 here, potentially a 7th here blocking. Instead, what happens is we actually go with 6, and they have 7. So they wind up +1 in the run game. Those numbers do not work very well for Florida. They're not going to work well here. Tennessee gets another nice stop. And again, despite the fact that it's 2nd and 12, despite the fact that Florida likes to throw a lot early in the game, Tennessee seemed to have an excellent bead on when Florida was going to run versus when they were going to pass. It's 3rd down and 10 for Florida. Tennessee comes out with 2 deep, way off the ball. In fact, Tennessee frequently had safeties way, way off the ball, and sometimes they played cover 0. They really mixed things up on Florida. They're going to go one-on-one with Tony here. Pre-snap, this looks like a one-on-one scenario for Trask, but again, early in this game, previous teams, especially Kentucky and Vanderbilt, were going to drop somebody right into this window. Now, I've already told you that Tennessee took a very different strategy in this game. However, one thing they absolutely took from Kentucky, which we thought they would, we think all future teams are going to take, was to play a ton of inside leverage pretty much all the way across the field. Take a look at this. Teams are denying Florida trying to run in-breaking routes. They're playing very aggressively on them. Despite that, down here, Tony is still going to take an outstep and absolutely completely fake the nickel. And then Trask is going to deliver an absolute perfect strike after a really nice recovery by Tennessee's DB. Take a look at that. Just a perfect pass. And that's good defense. It's a great recovery. Perfect pass to Tony on 3rd down and 10. And Florida moves to 6. Florida was averaging more than 7.5 yards to go on 3rd down. Not a good recipe for success, even when you're playing Tennessee's rather horrible pass defense. Tennessee's pass defense held up better in this game for the reasons we've already mentioned many times in this video, which you will continue to see as we go along. Florida now, after struggling to run the ball, essentially came out here in the 2nd quarter and just started passing the ball every single time. This is certainly a Dan Mullen 2.0 situation. Dan Mullen 1.0 would never have done this. This is something that is good. I still think Florida could have used the play fake a lot more to hold the linebackers. Florida was not doing that very often, which I think made things more difficult. But regardless, all Florida fans should be pleased that Dan would lean in, that Coach Mullen would lean in more heavily to throwing in situations like these, especially when you are still having a lot of success throwing the football. Again, Florida threw for a ton of yards in this game, but they were completely one-dimensional. You do need to be able to run the ball to win any kind of important championship in college football, but on an individual game-by-game basis, if your yards per play are just much higher passing, even if it's not perfect, even if you're struggling, it's still a lot better than gaining 1 or 2 or 2.5 yards running the football. So this is a nice move by Coach Mullen. Florida then begins to move the ball rather nicely. And on 1st and 10, we're going to get yet another good matchup here with Tony. Tennessee's going to bail into a cover 6. Cover 6, we're going to drop here, we're going to drop here, we're going to drop here, and here we're going to play cover 2. So again, the 2 side and the 4 side. That's going to give us an underneath robber. Now take a look here. They are going to drop this robber into this window. You can't see him. He's off your screen, but they're robbing a deeper route. So they're going to play it safe. Tennessee is playing this safe. He's not bailing way off on this play. We talked about how they mixed up their coverages. He is, however, going to allow Tony to have this part of the field, but not this part of the field. So this is what you would consider to be a safe bracket or help coverage on Tony. On this play, they are paying attention to Tony. Trask's first look is going to be here. He's not going to like that for good reason. It's not there. He comes back down to Tony. Tony has made another linebacker look rather foolish, simply with a little hesitation hitch. explodes out. And again, look at this for Tony. This looks like nothing on your TV screen, but the way Tony is leaning here has him go all the way over here. And again, you can't play defense going the wrong way. Easy throw from Trask. And then there you can see the safety that was creeping behind to play safe. And then Tony picks up a nice big gain. We should mention on this play, this is helpful because Delance, although he doesn't exactly do hero's work here, does not manage to get beat, which allows Trask actually to stay in the pocket and have enough time to throw this ball from a nice clean pocket right in stride of Tony under no duress. If you've watched these breakdowns for any amount of time, you know that numbers is what football is all about. And if you're brand new, here's an example of why numbers are really important. So pre-snap, Tennessee's not lined up, something Florida's defense tends to be known for. And we have 2 versus 3. Great situation. If you're Kyle Trask, take this ball. Let's zip it out here really quickly. Now here comes the third guy, but he's just way too late. Not a whole lot he's going to be able to do. And he, of course, just barely touches him. Just lets him know, hey, I made a mistake. I want you to know I'm here. And there you go. I'm there. Tag. You're it. Easy touchdown for Florida. Again, that's something you're just not going to see the better teams in college football do. They're not going to routinely line up and allow you to have a 3-on-2 on the edge or some very simple touchdown. Tennessee's pass defense is something that is a poor unit, in large part because they also struggle simply to just execute the defenses that are called or get the play calls in on time or be ready for the snap or a host of other things. And when that happens, of course, Florida made Tennessee pay all day long when they had situations like this one. Tennessee attempts a fake punt they should have converted. They don't. Florida now has 2nd down and 10. We're going to get a motion from Tony across the formation here. Again, typically Trask would recognize here as a very favorable matchup. He's not, and I think largely because he's thinking about throwing the ball to Pitts based upon his pre-snap read. He saw what he liked, and he's going there. But if he just looks, at this point in time, he knows he's a safety that's way inside, and he has a conflict defender that is not bumped all the way out to guard Tony, and he knows that Tony is on an outside go route. This pre-snap is everything you could ever dream of if you're actually paying attention to this motion. And in fact, he gets everything he wants. He's checking the safety. Unfortunately for him, what he's not doing is checking this window, because if he was, he doesn't have to throw the ball here. He can simply put this ball on Tony right there. Let's look again. Look at him. Tony is, I mean, this is just wide open. Drill this in here. Tony's one-on-one versus safety. Make a move, score a touchdown. Instead, he really just confirms the safety shifts here. Tennessee again in too high as they were frequently. This time they are funneling to the inside to the safety from the wide receiver spot. And here's Pitts, who they're getting physical with. Down low, we mentioned we figure teams are going to get very physical with Pitts off line of scrimmage, not to allow him a free release. And of course, you can see that here. By the time he comes off of Pitts, doesn't like what he sees, he's going to go to his check down in Pierce, and that's going to wind up going for basically nothing. So this could have been a huge play. Trask typically does see these, just indicating that he really did struggle today to make the reads that he almost always does. No reason for concern. Again, no matter who you are, no matter what quarterback you are, if you're the greatest of all time, or you're a college Heisman Trophy winning candidate, or you're a freshman in high school, at some point in time, you're not going to play your best game. And this is just what happened on Saturday with Trask. He didn't see the things he normally sees. 3rd and 10, Tennessee going to come out again with +1 here and +1 here, although it's extended with a deep safety. But they are going to be +1 on either side. So pre-snap, if you're Trask, there's not an automatic read here. Numbers-wise, you can pick either side. Either side, you're down a man. Now you're going to choose which route combination you like best. In your pre-snap, decide to look to first. He's going to read the safety, and then he's going to come here again to Pitts. Now, to me, I think he was really just locking onto Pitts. There's nothing about Pitts' route here that would have made him think that was the best route. In fact, given how Tennessee is playing this leverage-wise, off the snap, if Pitts were to be running a slant route here, this would be better, but Pitts actually has a hitch route here. This is a hitch route at the sticks. And again, the way they've been making physical contact on Pitts, this would not be a route that you would imagine would be one that you'd want to throw. Regardless, the route that he does have, absolutely for sure, is Copeland, who's going to torch his man up the sideline here. Now at this point in time, why does this fake him out? And you can't see this on the all-22, but the safety is going to take 2 steps this way and then actually bail back here. So Trask is going to look at the safety, sees him bail back. At this point in time, typical Trask knows he has a go route. He sees the safety has circled back here. He almost certainly would have snapped his head around and thrown this to Copeland. Now, whether or not Copeland would have caught it is anyone's guess. But at this point in time, he does tend to catch the go route much better than he catches a slant route, for example. But with that being said, he doesn't. Instead, he comes back down and takes a quick peek at Pitts. Doesn't like it. There's your quick peek. I don't like that. Okay, there's my check down here. What's my drag look like? Okay, I don't love that either. He's underneath this, trying to pick it off. And I'm going to get sacked. But in reality, he has a wide open touchdown here to Copeland. We mentioned on last week's film breakdown that Copeland has been the most open receiver Florida has. Teams give him very little attention. Despite how explosive he is, they don't give him help over the top like they do when Grimes is in the game. They tend to let him run free and wild. I have to imagine that Trask himself probably doesn't have the most trust in Copeland given the way the season has gone on, given some of what has happened either behind the scenes or in general. It just doesn't seem like Trask has the rapport with Copeland he does with some of his other receivers, and that's perhaps why oftentimes he's not looking to him early on or sticking with him when it seems like that would be the proper read. We also mentioned on the last film breakdown that Copeland, for whatever reason, for a guy who's as talented as he is and has been in the program for as long as he has, still does not catch a slant route the proper way. If you're catching a slant route and you're on the left and you're on the right side of the field running left, you want to catch it with your left hand over your right hand. Left hand over your right hand, which allows you to keep your leverage on the defender behind you, catch the ball, and move upfield as efficiently as possible. For whatever reason, Copeland is not comfortable doing this. He's going to really run more of a sit route here. It's more of a sit route here in the zone, and Trask is going to throw him into the open space to this shoulder, and you're going to see him again very unnaturally let this ball get into his body and then attempt to catch it as it's passing him with the very improper right over left, which is going to allow the ball to travel further. You're not attacking the ball. It's slowing you down. This is not the right way to do this. It's something that should be cleaned up. I have no idea why it isn't, given the success of virtually every other one of Florida's receivers with their technique and how they catch the ball. It's hard to blame any coach for this. This is something an individual player is just struggling with. And again, this is something as a quarterback that will mess with you. So we mentioned in the previous play that perhaps one of the reasons that Trask isn't looking for Copeland as often as he could be, based upon how open he is he doesn't necessarily have full faith and confidence in him. This is, in fact, the very next play after what we saw on that third down sack when Copeland was wide open and didn't throw it to him. I have no doubt that the staff sat down and showed him pictures and said, look, this is what's happening in this game. Copeland has been largely unmarked. He's been wide open. Take a look at the ball to him. And then Florida made a very concerted effort to get him the ball. Of course, this being the first play, he drops a rather routine pass, which is going to put Florida right behind the sticks and in a bad situation. As opposed to having 2nd down and 2, it's now 2nd down and 10. It's 2nd and 10, a down where it feels like Florida likes to run the ball perhaps too often. But really in football, again, do what the numbers say. Take what the defense gives you. This is a good idea. It's really the right way to play football, especially on a 2nd down and 10 scenario. If you can gain 5 yards rushing the ball because you have a numbers advantage on the line, you should do it, generally. Unless, of course, you're gaining 8 or 9 or 10 passing the ball, and you're doing so with relative ease. You have to take a look at the expected value of the play as well as the expected risk. But here, Florida has 2, 4, 5, and a potential 6, depending on what we do with him. Tennessee here with 6, and then again, a conflict defender, a safety that is close to the line of scrimmage. We talked about Tennessee playing rather aggressively in this game when they expected run. Florida is actually going to catch Tennessee not expecting a run here. Take a look at their post-snap action. Not coming downhill. Linebackers holding. Tennessee is expecting pass. They're going to stunt, as they did a lot. They're going to stunt. And they're going to bring the linebacker now that he sees there is a run. So we are 5 on 5. We have hat football down here. Everything should be fine. Unfortunately for Florida, Gourage here is going to wind up getting blown up. Here we go. He's going to get driven back. Look at that. You can see how far back he gets driven all the way into Naquan. So as opposed to this play going where it needs to go, and one more time, here we go, going where it needs to go, which is certainly not out here where we have absolutely no blockers. Right, here's Reese blocking on this side of the field, not this side of the field. We have no help over here. Naquan has to basically escape the only place he can, right into Tennessee's linebacker, who is simply playing free safety, so to speak, as a middle linebacker, just sort of waiting for where this play is going to go, filling a gap. There it is, uninhibited. So again, if you're taking a look at your team's run game and you're seeing several things happen. One, they're getting pushed all the way back this far to where the handoff exchange occurs, not good. Two, you now have your lead blocker, in this case Reese, who's supposed to be taking care of one of the linebackers, blocking no one because the play has gone the wrong way. Whatever the case may be, that's not good either. And then when you have a free defender standing right in front of your running back, that is also not good. This, of course, happened way too often in this game against Tennessee. It certainly affected Florida's offensive production and output and their ability to pass the football. Again, Tennessee, even when they weren't expecting run, they were still successful at stopping Florida's run game. 1st and 10, this play is the famous Delance doesn't do anything play. In reality, both Delance and Reese don't do anything on this play. Dan Mullen himself said after the game that the snap count got messed up. That's definitely true. You can see that on film. Again, both Reese and Delance, for whatever reason, get this wrong. The left side of the line gets it right, and that's going to allow on 1st and 10, of course, an uninhibited rush off the edge. Here it is, with no one touching him, right? Reese, again, although you can't see it, is the benefit of the fact that he has a defensive tackle right in front of him, so he's not going to blow right past him right away. Delance is sort of pointing. He's confused. What's happening? What's going on? It's really because he just didn't get the snap count, of course. This is all unfortunate because most of Florida's offensive problems in this game were a series of unfortunate events where people were open or we had opportunities or things could have been good and we just did not execute at a high level. Florida's going to high-low this corner here. So we're 2-on-1. Here's a sit route. We're going to be here. This is open or this is open. It doesn't really matter. You can take either one you want. This is going to wind up being a 1st down play for a 1st down. And pre-snap, in fact, this is a great look for Florida. Florida's 3-on-1 with the conflict defender here sliding over. But that's a great look for Florida. Really high off safety, playing safe. Easy play here on 1st down to take for a simple pass. Now Trask again, and this is what's perhaps confusing about this, Trask again is actually going to look over here. And this is just not something I've seen a lot with Trask on film. To me, this is exactly where you're looking, and Trask almost always would. That's where your matchup is. Down here, Tennessee has you 3v2. And that's not what you want, but yet he takes this snap, and he's going to go right there. Again, he goes right there. He looks up at the top of the screen for a second. He should know right now he has everything he needs. He has 3 routes. He already sees the safety is gone. He knows he's 2-on-1ing, and if you can see this here, he's going to have a route that sits right here and a route here. This is the easiest throw you can make as a quarterback. It's not going to matter here, of course, because we're going to get a free pressure on the outside. But point being, just interesting stuff. Really interesting that pre-snap he decides to come down here. You just don't see this a lot from Trask. Obviously, we've been easy on Delance in this video because at some point in time, you just can't keep saying the same things over and over again without feeling bad about it. It's a known commodity. Delance should not be playing right tackle at the University of Florida. After the game, Dan Mullen said, we're playing the best 5 guys. That just can't be true. And if there's no one better, then try everyone else. But you owe it to yourself and the team to put someone else at the right tackle spot. And if they're all worse, then you say, look, we tried them all. They were all worse. But you have to give other people game reps. You just cannot beat Alabama or any of the other playoff teams with such a weakness at right tackle. Now, again, in this case, it's a missed snap count. Even then, why are you missing the snap count? I don't know. All I know is on film, by far, Florida's offense's biggest weakness is at right tackle. Teams are game planning for it. They're using it. It just has to stop. I don't think it's going to stop. It seems like the coaches are stuck in the mud on this one, and it's something Florida's going to have to overcome if they want to win anything. It's just as frustrating for me as it is for you, perhaps more so because, of course, I have to highlight it every single week. and feel like a bad guy for saying, hey, look, our right tackle should not be playing in the SEC. What am I doing here? I'm just trying to point out the film. It's uncomfortable. It's not easy. It just is what it is. We move on. 2nd and 16 for Florida. Another curious pre-snap decision by Trask. 3 on the bottom, verse 2 here, and a super far off safety. Again, this to me, 3, verse 2. You got to be looking down here. You got to work this combination. Pitts is being shadowed here 7 yards off with another defender right there to potentially help out. Again, that's not a good pre-snap look, especially given the route that Pitts is going to run. Let's just look up there for now. He's just waiting for him. He's engaged. Of course, our linebacker is going to follow the running back into the flat, and he's going to get aggressive, get hands on Pitts. Tennessee did a nice job of that, consistently getting their hands on him. And then there we go, and just a dump off. Now it's 2nd and 16, but down here on the bottom of the screen, we have a 3-on-2 with a bailing safety here. There's a million different plays we could have run, not to mention Tony's actually going to run an in-between route over the linebackers underneath the safeties that also would have come open. It's a clean pocket. Trask could have stepped up right here and easily thrown a strike here. It's just hard to explain why Florida's offense looked so much not like Florida's offense in this particular game. It doesn't make any sense. Perhaps some of the only consistent factors are that the usual suspects were the usual suspects. But in general, again, hard to understand on film what Florida is doing here. The route combinations are fine. It's a good pre-snap look. It's a really soft zone. How we wind up dumping the ball down to the check down here with time in the pocket, I don't know. Again, I'd like to think that Tennessee's mix-up of defense, the pressure they showed Trask, who they were doubling, who they weren't doubling, when they were bracketing, when they weren't bracketing, when they were deep, when they weren't deep, messed with his usually extremely consistent and reliable reading skills. The good news for Trask, and we say this each and every week, is whatever you tend to do against him, he tends to notice it on film, go to work, and then fix it like almost immediately by the next week. So perhaps this is a blessing for Florida, as they saw a bunch of different things pressure package-wise that they hadn't seen at least in a while. And they also saw a defense that was rotating who they were covering. Again, hopefully this is going to reorient Trask to just taking what the defense gives you. Read the field, read the numbers, don't lock onto players unless you have man-to-man. Again, when you have man-to-man, that's a matchup-based, take your guy that you like the most against their guy that you think is the weakest or whatever the best matchup is. But against these zone defenses, you just have to read out what the defense is in, go to the numbers, take the space, make a full field read. Don't lock into a player, even if it's a player as good as Kyle Pitts is. 3rd and 12, this is a really nice call. Really, really nice call here from Coach Mullen. Tennessee, again, is going to settle into an extremely deep 3-man shell. Of course, they can come and attack routes of the first down marker, but they are sitting very, very deep. So they're playing aggressively underneath here, and the target box they're giving, which is one Trask throws really well, is one in here. Now, football's a numbers game. We're going to keep saying that right away. If you're looking on your screen and you're pre-snap reading as a quarterback, we see 2 and 2. Okay, what about on this side? We see 2 verse 1. Aha, we have something here. We also see only 3 linemen, 2 linebackers that are actually quite compressed and in tight, which makes this call such a good one. Let's let the right defensive end come in. Let's slide Stone out, and let's give ourselves a 2-on-1 blocking-wise, which could then turn into a huge play if we can run down the field and seal up here. Again, very simple. There it is. Excellent delivery. There's your 2-on-1. There's Stone's block, 15 yards down the field. A very easy conversion, all generated by use of the numbers. So we've mentioned all throughout this film breakdown that Tennessee's pass defense is not a good one, that we expected coming into this game that Florida would have their way with them. The Tennessee's defensive line also was not generating a ton of pressure or getting a ton of sacks. Tennessee instead just dialed up all the pressure. This is a good example of what Tennessee did that I'm pretty sure Florida did not expect. Florida ran a ton of empty. One of my favorite sets for Trask to run is the empty set. He tends to read the field so well against it. And again, he just did not do so in this game. Here comes the pressure from Tennessee. We're going to see a delayed blitz here. And again, this is a deep blitz. I don't like these blitzes for a lot of reasons. They open up a lot of field, which is going to happen here. Florida picks this up very, very well. This is all you need. Now, at this point in time, typical Trask right now, seeing a corner who is 2-on-1. Here's your 2-on-1 right here. That's your 2-on-1. Now, the safety that you can't see off the screen is not in position to play this corner route. Only the corner can really drop into this window and affect Trask. If you can imagine this corner being glued here to Pitts, he's completely gone. And then Trask can throw the ball here, but he's not. Trask yet is going to wait. Take a look here. He's going to wait. The ball just, he's there. He's ready. Ball is just a half second late. And by this point in time, notice the corner is now given Pitts up. What this is telling you is Trask, and you just don't see him do this, has been locked on for too long to the corner route. He's staring at it for too long, which gives this corner time to confidently allow Pitts. This is Kyle Pitts right here, one of the best tight ends in college football history, to run across the field unchecked. Why? Because he's reading what Trask is trying to do. Trask, as Trask does, he's about to throw, feels the fact that he's perhaps missed his window, and now as opposed to the ball already being out, coming to Grimes, who's going to wind up catching it here. It's not out. Take a look at Pitts. Also take a look at Tony. Both of them are completely wide open in the middle of the field, a place that Trask normally hits all the time. And instead, we wind up having an incompletion. This is a walk in the park for Trask. In fact, this play design is so good because we pick it up here at the point of attack that we have almost anybody we want. We have Pitts here. We have Tony here. We have Grimes over the top there. Timing is wrong. Therefore, the ball placement's not right. And one of the three receivers we could have hit, any one of the three you could justify hitting, we hit none of them. 10-7 Florida late in the second quarter in this game. Again, not a score I expected, despite that Florida has now consistently played rather poorly in the first half of football games. But here we are at 10-7. Again, a two-back set. Something, as we mentioned before, Bama really had a lot of success against Tennessee with. We're going to motion Tony out. And this is another poor read by Kyle Trask. Just surprising action here. No play action, no play fake here. We're not going to hold the linebackers. We're just sending our running back either into a block or out into a route, which is unusual for Florida. Again, I think this did affect the game. But on this play, we had everything we wanted. Again, right now, this is not a complicated read for Trask. So Trask is looking. He does have a linebacker in his window. Had we simply had any kind of play fake in here, this linebacker's probably here. That's why I mentioned that having a play fake is actually really important. That changes the window that you have. And if the linebacker is down here, Trask might already be able to throw this ball to Copeland, who's running a post right in here. Now, as it stands, although he still has this throw, he's going to wait too long. Again, ball should be out. Notice how we've talked about in previous film breakdowns, when your back foot hits the ground, bam, I am now ready to throw the football. Where am I going? Oftentimes, you'll see quarterbacks sitting back in the pocket for a long time, and while that seems great, plays are designed for the ball to come out at this point in time. Foot is in the ground. It is now time for you to throw the football. At this point in time, we can see that Copeland does have, in fact, a nice window here to go. If he does throw this ball right now, he has this. Tennessee has gotten creative, and they've dropped an opposing player into the window here to try to rob any kind of middle route. But this route is here if he throws it on time. More importantly, if the ball's not out right now and Trask wants to wait, then what he knows he has is he has a go route from Tony. So here's how this should work. Take the snap, take a read, foot in the ground. Do I like Copeland? What is the safety that you cannot see on the edge of your screen doing? You can't see him. What is he doing? If he's stepping inside to guard Copeland, because if so, I'm going to Tony. If he's staying to the outside, I'm hitting Copeland, right? That's what your read should be. This should all be rather quick. Instead, he's going to hesitate. Look at him. Look, he's hesitating. He's looking. What is he waiting to see? I don't know. At this point in time, Tony is now 2 to 3 yards past his man with nobody in the corner of the end zone to stop him. And now Trask has to fit a ball in, which he does, by the way. This is basically a perfect pass given the very late throw. And Florida does pick up a PI. But this is just very... I know I've said it a lot already. It's just very uncharacteristic of Trask. We did not see the typical ball timing, the confidence. He just was a little off of his game. He was not quite feeling confident and comfortable in this game with his ball timing, and that led to plays like these, which he's been making in his sleep all season long. Made him look a little bit more mortal. We mentioned in the Bama breakdown that Bama had success putting one receiver out here on the edge, and that if they did that, Tennessee was going to match that just man-to-man. Florida one-ups that and says, all right, well, if you want to play so aggressively against the run in the box, which we saw you did against Bama, let's see if you'll play man if we take Tony and move him off the line of scrimmage. Let's confirm that. Okay, yep, they're in man. Okay, great, they're in man, great. This is a good play. Let's stick with this play. There's no way anyone can chase Tony out here. Again, we saw against Bama, their linebackers were not going to attempt to fan out here and cover passing lanes. So we pretty much know it's a foot race here with Tony to the edge. We're going to win that every single time. And there it goes. Touchdown. Super, super easy. Good play design. We had mentioned to look for Florida looking to score with passes on the goal line because Tennessee is going to overplay the run. And you saw it right there with a touchdown late in the second quarter. So up to this point in the film, you haven't heard me say that Florida's run a lot of great coverage beaters. Although we've tried, we've been unable to connect on them. And right out of the gate in the third quarter, here is one that Florida connects on. Of course, Florida does drive down the field and score right before the half. And they're going to drive right down the field and score here at the start of the third quarter. Florida's done a phenomenal job in the middle of football games, of course, scoring. And what you see here is a go route to run Tennessee off. They're in a cover 3. We're going to run this corner off, and then we're going to 2-on-1 the defender here. That's exactly what happens. Here comes Pitts. Pitts is going to run a little corner or kind of a sit in the zone route. And then we have a flat, low route here. If this defender bails, we chuck it here. If he stays where he is, we throw it over his head. If he comes down, we throw it over his head. Again, really easy throw. Trask on this one, quick confirmation of the read. There's my safety. I see that he's off the screen. Great, he's gone. I know I'm going to have this throw as long as he just holds right where he is. Good pre-snap, good post-snap. Foot hits the ground. Take a look and throw. Ball on time. There we go. Now, predictably, this throw doesn't get driven down as well. Why? Because take a look. He should be able to stand right there in the pocket and now drive this way. Drive with his legs this way. Why can't he? Because you know why. And he's got to throw that ball, open platform. Still puts an absolutely perfect pass in there to Pitts for a big gain. This winds up being a rather curious play call from Florida. And perhaps this film breakdown is rather curious for me because here I am so far into it. And I said, yeah, this will be quick. I'm going to go through these plays very quickly and just highlight things for you and not break things down as much. But I was wrong. I apologize if this video was too long. I'm sorry. But there were a lot of interesting things in this game offensively I wanted to show you. So here we are. This is another one. So right off the big Pitts catch and play, Florida, I suppose, thinks that Pitts is going to block and then sneak out with nobody noticing him. Now, maybe this worked when Kyle Pitts wasn't the all-world tight end, top 5 NFL draft pick. It's not going to work now. Now, why does this matter? Because Tennessee actually just doesn't even cover Grimes. Grimes is wide open. Now, Trask is looking at him, but he's looking at him only because this is just subterfuge. This is not real. He's not supposed to throw him the football. We know this based upon Trask's drop depth. Take a look. He's going to keep dropping. Again, not real. We've seen Florida run these sort of throwback plays, if you will, quite a bit. He's setting up and he's waiting for Pitts, who is now sneaking out. Except Tennessee says, no, no, no. We are not going to leave your all-world tight end by himself. In fact, we're just waiting for him to do this. Good film study by Tennessee. Florida would do well not to attempt to use these backdoor plays with Pitts really anymore at all. Teams are keying on him too often, which means, of course, you could design a play that looks like this and then, in fact, have some different action where the play goes to somebody else because teams will think it's a throwback. So keep that in mind for the Alabama game. If Florida wants to use a wrinkle, one of the wrinkles could certainly be something that looks just like this, but instead of the ball going this way, Trask would do all the same action, and then there might be a player that either is way delayed coming out this way or a host of other things they could do. But for now, this play should probably be retired if Pitts is running it. And again, if Trask had the freedom here, he would have just stuck this ball into Grimes. Is this touchdown pass to Copeland or is it to Grimes? After watching it multiple times from the end zone camera on the All-22, I'm pretty confident it is in fact to Copeland. In fact, one of the reasons why it goes to Copeland is right now Trask is looking at Grimes, which is going to pull this defender towards Grimes, and then Trask is throwing a pseudo no-look. He is kind of looking, but again, not really. He just opens up his face to look at him. But you can tell that Trask isn't really looking here because this defender is still flowing this way. And he is throwing this ball to Copeland. Now, they have double slants on here. So here's where things get tricky. Although I think in all likelihood he's throwing the ball to Copeland, they do have double slants on. Copeland, as we know, is often far more likely than Grimes to run the wrong route. If they do have double slants, and the double slants were not sit in a zone, basically a read situation where run a slant and then sit if you're uncovered or find the nearest open spot. If they are supposed to just run dedicated double slants and carry it across the field, in this case, it would be Grimes who is in fact supposed to get this. Again, there's Copeland. He runs a slant. He's open. Now, if he's supposed to be able to just sit in the zone where he's safe and open, he does the right thing. He's sitting in the zone. He's safe and open. Grimes should just be recognizing that he's going to bring a man into the zone. He's done his job. He doesn't. Grimes actually points, hey, look, I'm going to run this slant route. Look, I'm open. Woo! There it is. Now, I can't know for sure whether, again, this was double slants that were supposed to rerun hard. The reason I'm telling you I think this ball was going to Copeland is both of them open up in rather slow postures, which tells me they are attempting to find the soft spot in the zone. Trask is reading the soft spot here. They're not coming out running hard slants. This, to me, looks like they're trying to find a soft spot. Copeland does find one. He settles in it. Trask uses Grimes here to shift over this defender and then throw a pass right to Copeland, and Grimes takes a touchdown from Copeland. It is what it is. 3rd and 3, you know at least a couple of times a game Florida is going to have to run the ball with Trask. And a lot of the times we've looked at this, the numbers have been favorable for Florida to do so. Here is 2, 4, 6, and 7 if Trask wants to run versus 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're at least hat on hat, but as you've seen me illustrate before, Tennessee does not know which way that we're running. And based upon how they're shifting a defender over here to be 4v3, we're in really good shape. In fact, post-snap, we're in even better shape. Now we have 4, 5, 6. Florida is +1 on this play, +1 on this play. We have everything we want and need, except we don't. Now, should Trask have just gone this way and taken the linebacker? Yep, he should have. But we have an extra blocker. Here it comes. And we're just going to whiff. Again, we talked about this before, right? If you're going to see your guard kind of squeak through here, or your tackle, or your center, or anyone, and they're looking and there's no one to block, and we have a linebacker who needs to be blocked, something is not right. And that's Stone Forsythe, of course, Florida's left tackle. Again, it's impossible to know on this play who's doing what wrong or right. So we're just going to evaluate the O-line as a unit and say, obviously, if we're +1 as a number here, we shouldn't look like we're down 1, right? One more time, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Going to wind up going up against Tennessee's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we are +1 blocker, yet, pause it, kind of looks like we're down 1. I'm sure this is extremely frustrating for Coach Mullen and the staff. To me, we've wasted an opportunity to try a bunch of different offensive line combinations, especially when we just haven't gotten peak output out of this. It's baffling. I don't understand it. It's frustrating, especially when you see stuff like this on film, sort of game in and game out, with a few exceptions here and there. So now it's 4th and 2. This is a play I'm sure you saw in the game and thought could have been a pick 6, which it could have been. Again, also uncharacteristic for Trask, who also just tends to be super accurate on these things. Not good mechanics here. Takes the snap. Nobody's in his face yet. Now, you've heard me mention before, I have no doubt that what's happening on the right side of our offensive line on most plays for Trask is affecting his quarterback play, and it is going to continue to do so. He has managed it remarkably well, but you are human, you're a quarterback, you're going to do a threat assessment, and there's just no doubt that you are going to start to think that people are coming after you from a certain side of the field. His mechanics have been showing that potentially more and more, and on this play, you can see that he is going to start, of course, to get pressure here. This is going to get him eventually. This is not going to be a long developing play. This should be a quick game throw. All he has to do is confirm what this player does, If he backs out, he knows he's going to Malik, and right now he should already be stopping his feet. He does not need to drive. Again, check the mechanics here. Right now, sit. Sit right there. Sit. Nope, nope, no. Sit. Don't do that. Just sit. Basically a zero drop. Set the feet. Sit. Don't open them. Why are you opening like this? Why are your hips and legs open here? No need. Again, one more time. Catch a snap. Foot in the ground. Sit there. Sit. Nope. Extra step. Don't do it. Extra step. Open. Wrong. Just sit. Stick. Deliver. Right away. First down. Deliver it with speed. Deliver with velocity. Deliver it downhill. First down. Now, as it stands, the Tennessee defender actually does not touch this football. So therefore, Malik still should have caught it, but it becomes tough because it certainly looked like he was going to touch the football. But if you're Trask, you haven't seen a lot of this out of him, but this was a regression of fundamentals in this game for a guy whose technique tends to be so good. Again, whether it's the boogeyman, whether it's the pressure Tennessee brought, whether it's a host of things, this play is just too simple, and all of this broken down because his bad mechanics on this particular play caught up with him, and you can see he knows it. Right when he releases this ball, he already knows he has really blown an opportunity. He's already jumping up and down, spends a few seconds off screen, sort of just huddling on the ground, frustrated with himself. Just didn't have a great day. Again, didn't have a great day, yet threw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Those are the kind of bad days you want to have. And if you are a really good quarterback like Trask is and you read the field really well, your really bad days are still pretty darn good. This 3rd down and 9 is a classic case of the TV view versus the all-22 view. Trask, who is an excellent and accurate deep ball thrower, is simply going to airmail one here to Grimes, who's running a go route. And on TV, here's what we saw. Ugh, missed him pretty badly. Now, what you cannot see and what I can't show you is that Grimes is going to get past his defender right about here. Past his defender right about there. Trask now sees it. This is good timing. Again, Trask takes a snap. Ball should already be out. Gives a little pump fake here. That's because there's a safety that you cannot see who comes down. So far, so good. Timing's okay. DeLance has a nice handle here. We're good. We're feeling fine. We got time for this. Ball's out. This is actually going to be a completion. So what happens? Grimes actually clears his man, and as he does, he goes to maybe a 50% jog for 3 yards. I really don't know why. He clears his man. He's open. It's rare that Grimes gets a chance where there's not a safety that's deep above him. But either way, he slows himself down, sees the ball is coming up to him, tries to gear himself back up, and cannot get there. If Grimes does not spend this 3-yard period here slowing himself down, he's going to run right under this ball for a touchdown. When Trask released the ball, he had not started to slow down yet. So this was, in fact, a perfect throw from Trask that, again, if you watched on TV, just looks like Trask missed. And he didn't. That's spot on the money. Yet another 3rd and long by Florida against Tennessee in this game. 24-7 Florida in commanding control of the game at this point in time, yet still not delivering a knockout punch to Tennessee. Tennessee is not going quietly into the night. In fact, Tennessee, who had played a lot of safe back-end coverage, as we've seen before, they had brought pressure with their linebackers, is going to go the old suicidal cover 0. No safety, cover 0. They're going to play off because they're worried about Florida beating them deep. It also is not easy to diagnose pre-snap that they are in a cover 0. Now, of course, they don't have what looks to be a safety, but he could just assume drop off your screen into safety. So this is a rather disguised cover 0 where they're going to bring all of these guys. Florida has 2, 4, and 5 offensive linemen because we are yet again in the empty set. This tells the defense we have no threat of a play action or a run. If we want to bring the house, we can. And they are going to do so. Tennessee is going to bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Versus how many? 5. Bringing one more than Florida can block, leaving Tennessee in man-to-man across the board with no safety. Trask feels out there in cover 0 rather quickly, goes to Tony, who is one of the best people to go to in a cover 0 route. Tony should be reading this as hot and should be ready for this pass. Trask going to deliver it just a little off target. Now at this point in time, I think Tony believes it's his fault. You can see him say this here, it's his fault. And that's largely because, again, it's a hot route here. Tony comes off the ball on the hot route. He's ready for the ball here, but he's sort of pretty casual, right? And again, on this case, this hot route's a slant route for sure. That's what Trask is throwing him into. And you can see Trask thinks he's going to keep coming across the field. You could easily have this hot route be anything. This hot route could have been a pop right here. It could have been a hitch right here. It could have been a million different routes. But based upon Tony saying it's his bad and Trask throwing this as a slant into that window, that's what it looks like. Regardless, who knows if Tony's actually going to get away from this here. But largely showing that Tennessee, again, playing very aggressive. Of course, we saw Vanderbilt do this in the first quarter of their game, but few teams have dared to play cover 0 against Florida at all at any point. Tennessee does it there and gets away with it, stopping Florida for a 3-and-out. While we've certainly spent a lot of time looking at what Trask struggled with in this game, it was not all bad for Trask, obviously, as we mentioned before. My job here on Film Study is to attempt to show you what could be improved on. That is one of the main reasons why you look at film, not to critique or beat people into the ground or create despair, but to say, hey, look, here's what they got us with. Here's what future teams will use against us. And here is, of course, what we should improve on. While I could show you each and every week all the plays Florida runs really well or things that went really well, that perhaps is less instructive than looking at things we struggled with. But this is a nice play. So it's still 24-7. This game is still hanging in the balance. Tennessee has stopped Florida twice in a row. Things are not so pretty for the offense. Trask has, again, not been hitting all of his throws. Yet take a look at this absolute dime he's going to feather in here on this play. And we'll show you why this is such a dime. Again, look at this. Tennessee is going to drop right into the perfect window. Pitts comes from here and runs a dig route. We're going to look at this more closely in a second. But this throw is just ridiculous. I mean, look at that pass. Dead in stride. Pitts catches this, a pickup of 14 or 15 yards. Just one more time, just the pass. Look at the weight of that pass. I mean, that is unreal. Such a good pass. Now let's go back and diagnose what happens here. Pre-snap. So Tennessee has been aggressive. By now, Trask is starting to get a pretty good beat in this game. And Tennessee, in fact, is being quite aggressive. All right, now we have Pitts on the end over here, which we've seen before. They've been physically handling, not allowing to get a free release. Well, in this case, they're going to blitz, and now Pitts has a free release. So this is allowing Florida to operate where they want to operate, and they're giving him the inside of the field. Now, Tennessee is adding a wrinkle here. Again, they're adding a wrinkle here by dropping their zone defender into this window. There he is. He's dropping. He's reading and dropping and reading and dropping. Trask takes the snap, gets a nice pocket, goes into his drop, back foot hits the ground. Now it's time to throw. Made a read, doesn't love it, changes his head around. Now it's time to throw again and delivers the ball. Now this is on time. So his first read is going to be up top. Here it comes, first read, foot in the ground up top. Okay, I don't love this. Don't love what I have up here. Again, you can't see it. I'm going to read Pitts. I see Pitts. I've got a linebacker that I know is dropping into my window. I've got space. I'm going to put a perfect pass in. And you can see his first read was covered up over here on the deep comeback route. So excellent pass by Trask. And again, a nice job by Tennessee. They dropped right into the perfect window. Tennessee did a very nice job scouting Florida in this game. They put a lot of good stuff on film for Florida's future opponents to look at, take from, and borrow from. And they mixed it up just enough that Florida could not just consistently say that Tennessee's game plan was to do this or that or whatever the case may be. They were always planting little seeds of doubt. And again, they got shredded when you look at the numbers, but if you actually look at the film, their strategy more or less worked because what we expected or what I expected or what I think Florida expected to do to them did not occur. And therefore, that is a win for what Tennessee was expecting to have done for them. What they did have done against them is a win for them, and largely that had to do with a pretty nice game plan by them and a pretty aggressive one at that. We'll end this offensive film study taking a look at something that we mentioned at the beginning that Tennessee did very well. It's 3rd down and 9. This game is 31-13. Of course, the game is over, but if you're anything like me, you'd like to see Florida finish out these games on more emphatic notes. I think limping to the finish line is not a great way to build the proper culture you want, and that culture is a championship-winning culture. It's one thing to see a game out. It's another thing to limp to the finish line. So it's 3rd down and 9 after a false start. Tennessee, which has been playing aggressive, is going to show Florida 6 men in the box. Florida has 2, 4, 6. Hat-on-hat football might be great if you're consistently running the ball, and at this point in time in the game you have 200 or so yards of rushing. When you have basically 20 yards of rushing, hat-on-hat football is probably not a great time for you to be calling a run. Florida, of course, is going to call a run. But more importantly, what did we mention at the top of this film breakdown? We mentioned this right here. Tennessee was really timing Florida's snap count very, very well. And look for yourself with what happens here. Perfect. Absolutely. Take a look. That's perfection. Walking into it, trusting it, going. And the ball is not snapped yet. Look, he's taking a dynamic step right now. He's launching into his timing, and he's all over it. And because of that, again, here we go. Similar play. Right here's Zipper again. Similar play. We're going to pull the guard. We're going to bring Zipper across. It's 3rd and 9. We've seen this movie before, and the same result occurs. Zipper, what is he going to do? He's not there yet. Again, that's not his fault. Right? There's just not a lot he can do about this, and Pierce is hitting the backfield before anything can happen. Now, do I like the call? No, especially hat on hat. I don't like it at all. But at the end of the day, it's even harder if a team is getting this kind of launch before the ball is snapped. That's just going to be extremely difficult to move the ball. Expect Florida to take a good look at that this week before the LSU game. So all in all, as a recap, Tennessee's strategy was to deny the inside throws for the most part. They played it very safe, usually with 2 deep. In fact, on this play you see here in the run play, they still had 2 deep. That's their large base, as we figured they would do. The difference and the unexpected thing was they brought a lot of pressure rather consistently in this game. It definitely messed Florida up, as well as mixing up who they were going to give attention to, which also messed Florida up. Teams have gotten much better at recognizing what kind of 2-on-1 and high-lows Florida likes to run. They're keying on those, and their defenders are playing them much better than they were earlier in the season. And lastly, of course, Florida rather inexplicably barely ran any play fakes. I think that might be the #1 reason Tennessee had so much success. They could have tried to do all the things they were doing, but if Florida was able to come out in personnel packages that allowed them to run more play fakes, I think it would have really slowed down Tennessee's linebacking core, which would have created bigger windows, better spacing, and potentially a better run game for Florida in general. But for reasons now that won't be known to us probably forever, we didn't do it. So we move on. Take a look for the LSU breakdown video coming out later this week. And as always, this is James from the Gator Nation Football Podcast. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.